Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to talk Start Collecting Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to take a look at the Ogor Mawtribes, and in particular, the Army of Renown, the Roving Maw. Now, in this video, we're going to go through the special rules for the Roving Maw. It has its own unique set of allegiance abilities that are completely separate from the general Ogre rules. You do not need any of the core rules from the Ogre rulebook, though some of these do repeat similarly to the main Ogre rules. Now we're going to go through all of these. We'll then look at a couple of units we recommend to get started with for the faction before exploring some other options we can use to expand upon those first couple of initial purchases. We'll then finally finish off the video with a little sample army list of 1,000 points for you to use, hopefully as some inspiration for starting your own force of the Ogres using the Army of Renown, the Roving Maw, in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And so, to begin with, we have the Maw Pits of Gur. At the start of each battle round, after determining which player will take the first turn, you need to determine the hunger status of the Maw Pits on the battlefield by rolling 2d6. If you included a Maw Pit in your army, you can add the number of models slain by its Head Butcher ability during the battle to the roll, and if your Maw Pit is garrisoned by the Head Butcher, you also add another +1 to the roll. You then pick one of the results on the Maw Pit table that is equal to or less than the value on the modified dice roll, and you can use that effect. On this note as well, a unit becomes vulnerable to Maw Pits if it's on the battlefield unless it's wholly within 1 inch of a terrain feature that is not a Maw Pit or it can fly. This ability though has no effect on Roving Maw units, or indeed Nighthaunt, because their whole army flies. And so, the Maw Pit table here. First of all, 2 to 3 subdued, no effect. Generally, if you've got your Head Butcher on the table, and you've killed something with his Head Butcher ability, you're never going to have this happen. Now, 4 to 5, Peckish, you subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of units that are vulnerable to the Maw Pit. Rumbling allows you to deal a mortal wound to every unit that's vulnerable to a Maw Pit. Famished means you can have enemy units vulnerable to Maw Pits, can't have the commands issued to them if they do not have the hero keyword. It's an incredibly powerful ability, and probably, I think, the big ability you're probably going to want to try and do, though the ability to do on a 4+ D3 mortal wounds is pretty nice with Ravenous if you need to get some damage through. Now, driven by starvation, friendly gorge units that are not wholly within 1 inch of a terrain feature at the start of your charge phase can attempt to charge even if they ran in the same turn, and the Butcher's Kitchen means those gorge units for each Butcher model keyword, so this would be both Butchers and indeed your Slaughtermasters, you can include a unit of Gorge or Maw-Pack as battle line. Ravenous Brutes is the same hungry and eating rule we have for Ogres. If you're not within 3 inch of enemy units, then you're hungry. If you're within 3 inch, then you're eating. Now, you get +2 move if you're hungry and +2 bravery if you are eating. Might Makes Right is slightly different here. Now, you do get the Ogre models count as 2 for the purposes of contesting objectives, but you don't get the monster one in here. Instead, you get any friendly hero that is not a monster counts as 5 models on objectives instead. Goblin Bites, last of all, is at the end of the combat phase, you roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inch of a friendly Gutbuster unit, and on a 2+, they suffer D3 +1 mortal wounds, which can be pretty nice. So, you know, on a 2+ and a 4+, you potentially could be doing 2d3 +1 mortal wounds to an enemy unit without actually rolling any attacks if you can get these dice rolls off. Pretty fun set of abilities, really going for a foot slogging ogre army that's going to include some butchers and gorges. Today's video is brought to you by Gap Games, a fantastic retailer in Australia for a variety of different miniature war games. If you'd like to help support the channel, we have an affiliate link where by clicking on and purchasing, you'll help support the channel, but you'll also help support Gap Games, which is a fantastic servant to the community. And so, where to get us started? First of all, a Butcher. Now, for me, I think this is one of 2 characters you could start with. You could easily start with a Slaughtermaster as well. The Butcher is a cheaper option, hence why I've decided just to go with that first. It's the cheaper way to get started. But you could easily have any of the 2 character models you want to start with. A Butcher, though, is a 7 wound, 5+ save, 1 cast, and 1 unbind wizard that has an option of 2 different weapons, either the Tenderizer, which is 3 attacks at 3s and 3s, rend 1 damage 3, or the Cleaver for 3 attacks at 3s and 2s, rend -2, damage 2. So really, whatever you want. I think the higher end is probably more important. Blood Gruel is a cool rule where each time this model successfully casts a spell, you roll a dice. On a 2+, it heals a wound, but on a 1, it will suffer a mortal wound. It then has a really fun War Scroll spell called Roving Maw that effectively allows you to keep dealing mortal wounds to an enemy unit until you fail to roll a 4-up. This is really fun. It's a fun little mini game. I've seen this go absolutely crazy. In fact, once against me in a tournament, was completely winning the game and then had my Black Dragon completely eaten away by this, and the game swung so hard in my opponent's favour. Now, the other unit, obviously, we're going to talk about are the Ogor Mawtribes pack. This is a brand new unit. That's actually the Ogor Mawtribes Warcry Warband that came out in the Hunter or Hunted box set. 5 wounds each and a 6+ save. For 220 points, getting 5 of these models with 5 wounds each, 25 wounds is pretty solid. Now, you do have bone shattering strikes for them with 3 attacks each, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2, so they pack out a decent amount of damage, but really it's their abilities that make them super interesting. First of all, the Agonizing Roar for the Cave Howler, which can be 1 in 5 models in the unit. This means each time an enemy unit receives a command within 12 inch of your Cave Howler model, on a 5+, the command is not received and the enemy unit loses the command point as well. Ambushing Hunters, though, is the big ability where during deployment, instead of setting the unit up, you set it up off the board and they come in from reserves 9 inch away from any enemy units anywhere on the table. Super great ability. This gives you some really strong movement power with your ogres. Now, looking at where to go next, I did mention that we have another character option in the Slaughtermaster, and this is another 1 cast and 1 unbind wizard, 7 wounds, 5+ save. Now, you've got a couple of different weapons. First of all, you've got the Stump Blades for 2d6 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and the motley assortment of weapons from his little Nobbler friends for 3 attacks, 5s and 5s, no rend, damage 1 as well. Blood Gruel is the same rule as the Butcher, but then you have the Great Cauldron, which allows you to roll a dice and potentially get some variety of different abilities. This could be suffering a mortal wound to yourself, not the greatest, but that's only if you roll the 1. 2 for Troggoth Guts means you can heal D3 to this unit. In addition, you can heal 1 wound allocated to each other friendly ogre unit within 12 inch. Spine Marrow is really the one you want. This is +1 to wound rolls for melee weapons for friendly ogres nearby, which is pretty cool. And then Bone Crusher is some more mortal wound damage. This can be pretty cool if you've gone for a turn where you've actually got, some decent mortal wound damage. This can pack out a decent amount of mortal wounds. Rock Chomper is the War Scroll spell for this model though, and you pick a friendly Ogre Glutton's unit hold within range invisible to the caster, and what this does until your next hero phase, rolls made for enemy units within 3 inches of this units for the purposes of the Gulping Bite battle trait cause d6 mortal wounds on a 4+ instead of d3. So pretty cool stuff. Now, we then have the Gluttons. Gluttons are a solid ogre unit, and as mentioned, they are going to get those Gulping Bite rules for some extra damage in there. They've got 2 weapon options where they can either go for the dual weapons or the single weapons. This will just net them an extra attack if they go with the dual weapons, but if they go with the single weapons, they will get the ability to punch some mortal wounds back with the Iron Fist on any successful save rolls of a 6, which is really nice. Now, we then have Nobblers, which I think are an incredibly important piece of any ogre army, especially something more infantry focused. Dirt cheap, 1 wound each, 6+ save, movement 5, bravery 4, nothing too great to write home about. You do get 20 models for 120 points. A cool thing with them is each time an enemy unit finishes a move within 6 inch of any friendly units with this ability, you can roll a dice, and on a 4+, you'll actually deal some mortal wounds to the enemy as well. Now lastly, I have the Blood Pelt Hunter, who I think is an interesting piece to take inside this list. It's going to give you another sort of additional movement piece when you've got, a lot of maybe slower ogre units. Yes, you've got movement 8, but you don't really have a lot of movement. The Blood Pelt Hunter will give you a decent bit of shooting with his Skull Shatter crossbow and Impaling Spear, putting out a decent amount of shooting damage, but his Unrelenting Hunter ability at the end of your opponent's movement phase, if this unit is more than 9 inch from all enemy units, it can make a normal move, and it's not visible to enemy units while it's in cover as well, which is a really fun ability. Beastbreaker means if the target of this attack is a monster from its cool Skull Shatter crossbow, the damage characteristic of the Impaling Spear is 6, and that Skull Shatter crossbow is 3 as well, so no needing to roll a d3 and d6 for those damage. And so here we have our sample army list. Now, we've gone for the Roving Maw, obviously. I mean, that's the video we're here talking about. Now, we have gone for the grand strategy, which is the one we've got specific to the Roving Maw, called the Empty Stomach, Still Not Satisfied. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if 6 or more enemy models were slain by the Maw Pit Head Butcher ability. So, cool. You just need to make sure you're getting that off. And then we have a Butcher who's going to be our general. We've gone for a Cleaver and the Master Maw Feeder command trait. This means the general knows all the spell of the Law of the Great Maw in addition to any other spells they know. So we've gone for a universal spell of Levitate here, which I think is really, really important to get some flying movement on some of our Ogre units to skip over screens. Flask of Congealed Meat as an artifact allows us to potentially restore a Maw Pit that's been affected by Smash to Rubble. And then we've got a Slaughter Master who's got the Flaming Weapon. With 2d6 attacks, he can actually put out a decent amount of damage if he rolls hot. We then have our Bloodpelt Hunter rounding out our heroes, and for Battle Line we've got 6 Ogre Gluttons in there with Blunt Blades and Iron Fists. I think a defensive unit is really nice considering we've got the Gorges who can be a more offensive piece. 20 Nobblers give us a screen and everything wrapped up in a battle regiment for a 1-drop force with 91 wounds at 1,000 points is pretty decent. If you've got some ideas though on how you'd build up your first Roving Maw army list, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And so, that's the end of the video. We hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below, letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our great little community here, we have a Discord server linked down in the video's description, and also linked down there are the best ways to help support the channel as well. Our Patreon and YouTube members down there are fantastic ways to help support the channel, and if you'd like to get a shout out like all these people, you can go and join up today. So with that said, we'd like to give a shout out to all our Patreon and YouTube members. So thank you to our Patreons, Rob B, Broken Chef, Andy C, Grimscold, Colorblind Magic, Benjamin Swallows, James Cater, Mark Harvey, Domir, Average Wargamer, Q Damak, Andrew Bowen, Outer and Shot First, Kenny Lowe and Soren, and to our YouTube members, Green Roots Gaming, Ronya, Lock Lorick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, James Tillman, Disco, John Castle, and Gargamel196. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.